Did you hear about Caitlin Clark's $28 million Nike deal? Sounds amazing, right? But wait till you hear the shocking truth behind it.
I'm going to be talking about how badly her agent fumbled the entire situation for her signature shoe and everything. And I mean this when I say this, fumbled real bad.
Clark's agents might have just cost her $50 million in the long run. You might be thinking, but $28 million is still a lot of money. Sure, but imagine being locked into a deal that might be peanuts compared to what you're worth in just a year or two. That's the situation Clark's facing now. Now everyone's asking, how could they mess this up so badly?
I think in general, she probably knows that there was a screw up. I think Caitlin Clark's team knows that they messed up. They done goofed. They done goofed badly when it comes to what they've done with that Nike deal.
Caitlin Clark's $28 million Nike deal might sound like a dream come true, but the reality is far more complicated. Behind the headlines lies a story of missed opportunities and costly mistakes. Clark's agents may have fumbled so badly that it could cost her as much as $50 million over time. At first glance, $28 million sounds like a lot of money, because it is. But here's the catch. Clark's locked into an 8-year contract, meaning she's stuck with terms that could quickly become outdated as her star power grows. Imagine being one of the brightest talents in basketball, only to realize you're tied to a deal that doesn't reflect your true worth. And here's the kicker, it seems even Clark's team knows they messed up. This was
on her staying in college a 5th year, which means that these were deals that were signed before she finished.
Clark stepped onto the court during the NBA All-Star Weekend and absolutely stole the show. Her performance wasn't just impressive, it was a declaration. She wasn't merely a college player anymore, she was playing at a professional level, outshining seasoned athletes. Her shooting, court vision, and game control left jaws on the floor. Everyone watching had the same thought, this player is a superstar. But off the court? That's where the problems began. Before Clark even finished college, several companies offered her deals contingent on her staying an extra year. Her agents seemingly underestimated her rapid rise to stardom, signing her to an 8-year
NBA season has come and gone. And with that, Nike has not done one thing to promote her. We have not seen any commercials, we have not seen any ads, we have not seen any Caitlin Clark merchandise, and we for sure as hell.
Nike hasn't delivered on their end. There's been no major promotional push, no commercials, no merchandise, and, most glaringly, no Caitlin Clark signature shoe, one of the biggest selling points of her deal. She's become the face of women's basketball, yet there's little visible effort from Nike to capitalize on her growing fame. Some experts are calling this a missed opportunity not just for Clark but for women's basketball.
So, when it comes to her deals, Sabrina Ionescu signed a $24 million deal when she came, a 5-year, $24 million. By the way, Caitlin Clark, was it 5-year or 4-year? A 4-year, 20
fan base. She deserved a deal that matched her influence, something shorter, more flexible, and packed with promotional power. Instead, Clark's story has become a cautionary tale. Even the best players need to bet on themselves and ensure their contracts reflect their value. Because in this case,
year, $28 million. So Caitlin Clark, coming out of college, signed a deal where she was earning $3 million more for 4 extra
$1 million might be impressive, but compared to what she's truly worth? It's starting to look like pocket change. When you compare Caitlin Clark's deal to Sabrina Ionescu's, the numbers don't lie, and they're not in Clark's. Let's break it down. Sabrina Ionescu landed a 4-year, $24 million contract, bringing in $6 million annually. Meanwhile, Clark signed an 8-year, $28 million deal, averaging just $3.5 million per year. That's half the annual income for twice the commitment.
However, I will say that Caitlin Clark has created more buzz around the basketball landscape and has actually transformed and revived a league that was the WNBA, and she is getting paid a measly $28 million for
running shorter, more lucrative sprints. Here's the kicker, as Clark remains locked into this lengthy deal, other players could soon sign contracts that dwarf hers. How did her team let this happen? It's baffling, especially considering Clark isn't just any athlete. She's a game changer, someone who's not only
Nike is obviously the biggest brand in athletic apparel, and Caitlin seemed to be a perfect fit for the brand. $28 million at the time, while some people, including myself, were saying that this might be a little bit too low because of the superstar that she is. It seemed to be like
generating buzz around women's basketball like never before. Remember, this is the same Caitlin Clark who electrified the NBA All-Star Weekend and has everyone talking about the future of women's basketball. Yet she's earning a mere $28 million over 8 years, a deal many experts are calling one of the biggest missteps in women's sports. At the time, some thought the Nike deal was solid, but others flagged it as far too low for a star of Clark's caliber. Nike, the biggest name in athletic apparel, seemed like the perfect match. However, the $28 million deal feels more like a missed opportunity than a career-defining win. So what went wrong? Many are pointing fingers at her agents. By playing it safe, they may have left tens of millions on the table. Industry insiders are calling it a $50 million mistake, and from where we're sitting, it's hard to argue.
Companies were surprised how involved Caitlin Clark was, is that during the calls with Adidas, she was there. Adidas sent Clark some shoes and even created a prototype signature model for her. Adidas bill fell far short of the Mark 6
themselves tell an interesting story. Adidas kicked things off with a lukewarm offer of $6 million over 4 years, even sending Clark prototype signature shoes. But that number was laughably low for an athlete of her stature.
In the end, the close contender Nike was Under Armour, companies whose highest profile ambassador happens to be Curry, $16 million over 4 years with the signature shoe.
With a signature shoe. As Stephen Curry's brand of choice, Under Armour seemed like a serious contender. Yet, in the end, Clark chose Nike's $28 million, 8-year deal, which included a signature shoe but far less annual income. Now, Clark's deal feels like a bargain bin contract as other players sign bigger, flashier agreements. The big question is whether her team
offered $3.5 million per year but no signature shoe. Caitlin will be the face of the Kobe brand instead. Clark and Nike. And I actually, unpopular opinion, I actually think that would be really cool. I think in hindsight, Caitlin Clark being the face of the Kobe brand would have been really, really cool. The problem is that there's no signature shoe, and there's no way she would be doing that if she was getting long-term.
Played it too safe. Either way, it's a decision that will likely cost Clark millions in the long run. The takeaway? Athletes like Clark shouldn't settle. With her star power and transformative impact on the game, she deserved a deal that matched her worth. For now, though, she's stuck watching from the sidelines as others cash in on opportunities she could have had. Caitlin Clark had
So she's actually took less money to get a signature shoe. I mean, like 3.5 million is an eye-popping number. That's way less than they offered Sabrina Ionescu.
You'd think her team would jump at the opportunity to make her a household name, right? Enter Nike. Nike offered $3.5 million a year and the opportunity for Clark to be the face of the Kobe brand. At first glance, it sounds incredible, a prestigious role with a globally respected brand. But there was one big catch: no signature shoe. And for an athlete as marketable as Clark, a signature...
Or is there an awful lack of a bet on yourself? I genuinely think her agent, if she had like a super agent in Rich Paul, if she was with Clutch, I would be shocked if Juju Watkins in college is making less than Caitlin Clark is.
Offer to $3 million a year to include it. Here's the kicker: that's still less than what Nike gave Sabrina Ionescu. Even so, Clark's team accepted an 8-year contract, a lifetime in the sports world. Now, everyone's wondering why they didn't push for a shorter deal. A 4-year contract would have allowed Clark to renegotiate when her value inevitably skyrocketed. Instead, her team opted for long-term security over big-time potential. Many think Clark deserved representation that saw her true worth. If she'd had someone like Rich Paul or been with an agency like Clutch Sports, it's hard to imagine her settling for less. Juju Watkins, who's still in college, could end up with a more lucrative deal than Clark. How did her team miss the bigger picture? The result? Clark's $28 million deal, while substantial, now looks like a missed opportunity. She's dominating the WNBA as expected, but off the court, the financial scorecard isn't in her favor. Fans are doing the math, and it's clear she's losing out on millions annually. Insiders are already calling this one of the...
It's just not a good deal from her agent whatsoever. And it's going to cost her a whole bunch more money. Like, it's going to cost her so much money. It's probably costing her, it's going to cost her millions. It's probably costing her the guts of 10 million.
And it's clear she's losing out on millions annually. Insiders are already calling this one of the biggest missteps in women's sports contracts. Taking the most conservative deal possible over an 8-year stretch? It's costing her dearly, potentially upwards of $10 million per year. The takeaway is clear: playing it safe can...
It was just the most conservative possible deal. And taken over 8 years. So realistically, Kate, like, you come into the WNBA at 22. the vast majority of Caitlyn's prime.
After all, when you're Caitlin Clark, a once-in-a-generation talent, you shouldn't settle for less. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA at 22, no one imagined most of her prime years would be tied to a questionable shoe deal. Unfortunately, that's exactly what's happening. Instead of
The biggest issue with my thing is that she didn't, like, they took an 8-year deal. Like, you've got to bet on yourself. In my opinion, if you are a Caitlin Clark, you have got to bet on yourself.
Might be holding her back. Clark committed to an 8-year contract, a move that's raising eyebrows. Many believe she should have bet on herself with a shorter-term deal. Right now, her contract, worth $28 million, looks like a bad fit as her star power skyrockets. Meanwhile, other players are signing new, more lucrative agreements.
In 8 years' time, I would be absolutely shocked if Serena Ionescu, Aja Wilson, Fee Collier even, Juju, Paige, all of these players will be earning more money.
Making significantly more from their shoe deals than Clark. In fact, their contracts already make her $28 million look like spare change. The real frustration? Clark doesn't have a renegotiation clause. That means she's stuck. Unlike her peers, who can leverage their growing influence for better deals, Clark has no flexibility to go back to the table. If she had signed a shorter-term deal,
even if it is on that $3 million per year, I think you have then the leverage, if you're Aaron Kane, to negotiate, be like, no, that doesn't work. It's like, we know Caitlin's worth about $15 million a year. We know that's what she's worth. She is your biggest star.
Around $15 million a year. Let's face it, locking into a long-term deal in a rapidly evolving market is risky, especially for an athlete with Clark's potential. By the time her contract ends, the market could be completely different, leaving her even further behind financially. What's the lesson here? It's simple, always bet on yourself. Playing it safe might seem smart, but in the fast-moving world of sports, it can backfire. Clark's talent on the court is undeniable, but this deal could hold her back for years. While her story is far from over, she's still dominating.
We will push this on to 8 years, if you renegotiate it at $11 million a year. So we'll give you $4 million a year off. We'll push this out to 8 years. If you go at $11 million a year, we'll give you $4 million a year off because we made the initial deal. But that's what we want to renegotiate this deal after 1 year. And I think Nike would be in a really